Hello, and welcome to the VA Roadmap. I'm going to be showing you how to turn your existing skills into services that you can offer as a virtual assistant so you can start making money fully remotely and online. So this is going to be what we are covering. So first of all, I'm going to be covering a little bit about my story about how I went from working in a 9-to-5 normal kind of corporate life to building a fully remote virtual assistant business. Also going to get in depth into what a virtual assistant actually does. So if you're new to the industry, we're going to cover all of that. We'll also show you how to turn your existing skills into services with simple packages using AI. This is a game changer. It is crazy how we can turn your existing skill set into services so quickly. So you're going to want to hang on till that part. And we're going to show you the types of businesses that actually hire virtual assistants, so you know who to keep your eyes peeled for, and we'll show you the simplest ways beginners are landing their first client. Again, that is always the money maker. That is what people want to learn, so you're going to want to stay for that. And we will teach you the next steps on how to actually get this off the ground. So by the end of this is what you can expect to leave this training with: your own virtual assistant services pack built from the skills that you already have ready to go. They'll be simple, they'll be beginner friendly packages that you can literally then create and put in your proposal, put in your future social media page. All the good stuff will get into that, and you'll have a clear path that you can follow to start getting paid by your first client, which is obviously the most exciting part. So just a little bit about me if you are new here. So I went from a 9-to-5 in Dublin to building a fully remote virtual assistant business. So I had lots of different experience before I started this business. From working in retail in Tesco, I worked as an admin assistant, I worked as a finance assistant, I worked as a receptionist, different personal assistant roles. So I had quite a varied background. So if you're someone who's a bit of a jack of all trades, has done a lot of different things, this can be really, really useful. And I used the exact skills that I already had to build a virtual assistant business from scratch. And I didn't have any experience working online or running a business before this. I didn't actually know any entrepreneurs. Even my personal life to this day, I still don't know any entrepreneurs. So if you don't either, that is okay. That is why you're here. And I run this business with my partner, Adam, which you can see here. We have pivoted our business, so now we are virtual assistant coaches. So we basically help people who are just like me in, when I started this business, how to actually get up and running with their own virtual assistant business. And I'm going to show you how you can build, this kind of business model and be a virtual assistant with your existing skills. So, like I said, I was working in Dublin in 2018. I was working in a finance assistant role. It was a decent job. The money was decent. The people were nice. Something just wasn't hitting. And I don't know if you can resonate to this, but I just wasn't happy. And this career was definitely not what I wanted to do with my life. I was in my mid-20s and I was like, I can't be doing this for 40 more years. Surely this isn't it. So look, I took some drastic measures, and I'm not saying you need to do the same, but I decided to quit my full-time job. I went solo traveling in 2018, and then I actually started this business in 2020. So there was definitely a little bit of a gap there, but I had a bit of time to just think, figure out what I wanted to do, and actually do some research into it. I feel like we're so accustomed to just doing like what, maybe our parents or our friendship group or our social circle is doing. And that was me. I just went to college, got all the normal jobs, went into a normal career without ever thinking like, is this actually what I want to do? So although I did set up my virtual assistant business and I did land clients really, really quickly, my first client I landed within 7 days. So you can imagine my excitement. Things were messy and I had no systems or structure in place, and I was making things way harder for myself. To be honest, it was very stressful when I started out because I didn't have these systems in place, because I just didn't do things the exact right way. And I just put a lot of pressure on myself that just didn't need to be done that way. So looking back now, I wish I just could have cut out a lot of that stress, and this could have been done if I had someone that I knew, or someone like what I'm going to be to you guys, where you can actually learn before you start, so you're not making the same mistakes I did. So you don't have to figure it all out the hard way. So what is a virtual assistant? If you are new to this industry, what's a virtual assistant and what do they do? Let's get into it. So a virtual assistant is an independent contractor who provides remote support services like admin, personal assistant, social media support. It could be, event support, really anything that could be remote support. But they do it. you basically support multiple business owners at one time. So you have multiple clients, and that's where the flexibility comes in. So instead of working for one employer in a traditional job like you may have now, you're going to use those skills you already have to support, like I said, several small businesses remotely, and obviously get paid for those services. So for example, some of the services you could be offering as a virtual assistant, it could be things like answering emails, email inbox management. It could be things like booking appointments, calendar management. It could be task tracking. That could also be linked to project management. It could be client follow-ups. You could be kind of helping a client with track their leads and follow up with inquiries, and just helping them also manage with their actual client communication. It could be offering basic social media support. There are so many services you can offer, and this is where we're going to show you how to create your own services pack that will be different from the next person's. So we will get to that. This is just to give you some of the kind of foundational ideas. So lots of these tasks you are more than capable of doing already, because you likely have transferable skills from your current job or your previous job that you can use as a virtual assistant. And this is like my main thing I want you guys to take away. It's like you already have the skills to get started, and that is all you need for now, is just to use what you have. So what do you need to be a successful virtual assistant? So you do need to have a laptop. Obviously you need to have internet. You also need to have a phone. You need to have the ability to follow through. And this is such an important one. So you need to be willing to show up and get work done consistently. You need to use the transferable skills that you already have, instead of sitting at home trying to learn every skill under the sun before you actually start. You need to be willing to learn as you go. There's obviously things you need to upskill in as you go, and just that expectation that will be there. And you need to be willing to tell everyone about your business. Put yourself out there. You would be surprised who is in your circle or your, slightly removed circle who could absolutely be a client. One of the girls in our community, she landed her first ever client because she was getting a massage, and she told the masseuse about her business. That masseuse hired her. She also worked in a salon where the salon owner then also hired our student, and also there was a makeup artist, a bridal makeup artist, who worked in that same studio, and she also hired her. From mentioning it to this masseuse, she landed 3 clients. And I'm not saying it's always going to be as easy as that, but it just goes to show you just never know who's out there and who's listening. So spread the word to anyone who will listen. What you don't need to become a virtual assistant. So you don't need to have the experience. Like I said, I had no experience running a business or any experience with social media marketing, anything like that, but you just need to use the transferable skills that you already have. You don't need to feel ready. No one is ever ready to start something that is new. But you do need to start, follow a plan, and then remain consistent. Consistency is just so important with this. You don't need lots of free time. We usually recommend having like 10-ish hours a week. You can see an incredible amount of progress, even with 10 hours a week. And you don't need to quit your job straight away. This is definitely like a preconceived idea, and people might feel like daunted about like quitting their job and starting something new. Start as a side hustle. You do not need to make this decision early on. Wait until you're up and running, you land multiple paying clients, you feel secure, you know how to get more clients, and then transition if and when it makes sense for you. Okay, so how to turn your existing skills into services and simple packages using AI. So, like I said, you already have skills. I have no doubt that people are willing to pay for, and most people think they need to learn lots of new skills or have tons of experience to start, because that's what a traditional job requires in like the normal job market. But in reality, you're already doing the tasks every day that businesses need help with. We just need to like package them up in a slightly different way. So this is why most people never start and what works instead. So most people, like we said, they try and learn loads of new skills first. They wait until they feel confident. They overthink what to offer, and then they never actually start. And that's a sure way to keep you stuck. But what actually works is when you go through these stages of starting with what you already have, package it simply, which you're about to learn, and refine as you go. This is something that your whole business will always be refining as you go. And that is how people land their first client. Once you land your first client, there's serious momentum. The excitement picks up. I'll never forget landing my first client. It was for $200. It was an American client, and I worked with her for 1.5 years. And honestly, that is my biggest financial milestone in date to this business, because I was so excited that I was like, right, there's one of her, there's more of her. And it was very motivating. I had the proof of concept that money hit my bank account, and you bet it was like game on to land the next one. So it's very motivating when you get there. So you don't need to figure this out alone anymore. We are so lucky at how much AI has evolved and come into our life, because instead of guessing what your skills are, what services to offer, how to package them, you can now get that direction in literally minutes. It is magic with this prompt I'm about to give you guys. So you can use whatever AI tool you prefer here. There's so many different ones. I personally use ChatGPT and Claude. There's pros and cons of honestly all the different ones. Use whatever you want. I'm going to do this example in ChatGPT. I feel like it's the simplest with what we're doing here. But like I said, if you already signed up to one or you have one at work or whatever it is, use whatever you want. So right now I'm going to do a live demo and we're actually going to build this together. So in the next few minutes, you're going to have the services you can offer, simple packages you can use, and something real to sell. So what you're going to do is you're going to open this prompt. So when you're watching this video, the prompt, this link is underneath this video. So you'll be able to find this right away there. And you're going to basically see where it says copy and paste this prompt into ChatGPT. Like I said, if you want to use something else that's not ChatGPT, be my guest. Okay. So we're going to copy all of this. And then you're going to go to ChatGPT and you're going to paste that in here. I'm going to click enter. Okay. So I've just set up a new ChatGPT account, so this doesn't know anything about me. And I'm going to give this of the perspective of everything that I did in my life before I started my virtual assistant business. So you guys can be in a similar situation. So let's just go. We'll start with your background first. What previous jobs, freelance work, side hustles, volunteer roles, or business experience have you had? Okay, and I recommend using this dictate button. It's so much faster. So I'm going to give you guys a summary of like what I've done. So I worked in retail for years. I worked on the tills. I learned a lot of communication skills, people skills, because we had repeat customers. I also did some work where I helped my mum she works in the credit union. I helped her with kind of like packaging up envelopes and sending and getting them ready for the postal service. So there's a lot of attention to detail there. I then worked in a startup where I was like a receptionist. I looked after handling events, like office management, like stocking the kitchen. I organized lunches. I dealt with deliveries. I also was like the go-to person for anyone that needed extra help. I was the hands-on support there. Then I worked as a finance assistant where I looked after inputting timesheets, basic admin, basic Excel management. I would track expenses for different job sites. Then I worked as a personal assistant for someone else. I did reconciliations for his bank accounts. I did email inbox management. I did kind of phone management, or when he got inquiries via phone. What else have I done? I also worked in a insurance company in medical screening. So this was people basically ringing in who were very unhappy calling. We would often be charging them way more money for their insurance policy to be valid. So I learned a lot of skills there with kind of conflict management and dealing with people. I was on the phones for 8 hours a day in a high pressure environment. I also just learned how to deal with like working at a very high capacity. I think that's all I can think of. So then we're just gonna go see what it's gotta say. So this can be such a brain dump. You can see there, like I was like, I kind of skipped a few beats, like went back in time a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna click that. Okay, so in your receptionist role and PA role, what tools or systems did you use regularly? Okay, so I use Google Workspace and Microsoft Office. I used Excel and Google Sheets. I used Zoom. I used Acuity, I think was the name of the calendar system I use. And then I also just use like iPhone Calendar and Google Calendar as well. And I honestly can't remember the names of any of the other systems, but let's just phrase it that I use multiple different systems, because in all these, I did use multiple different systems and I was easily able to pick them up. So that's a fair representation. I just don't remember the random systems that I used over the years. Okay. Practicals. Okay. So it says, you already have experience with admin, scheduling, spreadsheets, communication platforms, inbox, phone support, operation support. This gives us a good practical foundation. Let's move on to your practical skills outside of your job title. What tasks do people naturally come to you for help with, either at work or in everyday life? Okay, this is really good. It gives you some ideas. So naturally, I would have friends or family members come to me would say they have like little business ideas and they need help with the creative side of it. It might have been creating a logo or creating some colors on, Canva, or helping them like edit their website or make it look pretty, or so that kind of thing. I was also really good at researching trips. I've been someone who's planned a lot of trips. It's not something I love doing, but I am naturally good at it. I also am someone who loves like trackers and budget spreadsheets. Not that I personally stick to them, but I like the idea of them, so I like to create them. Also, I've had like in my, say for example, kind of like parent age people in my community come to me for help with setting up apps, resetting passwords, setting up their iPhones, or transferring everything to a new computer. Or like I had one of my mum's friends once asked me to set up a dating profile because he'd literally never used the internet because he was an older man. So things like that, I'm definitely the go-to person. Okay, this is a good example of, again, there's a lot of random things that I've just told it there. It's literally off the top of my head, things I can think of that might be relevant. Okay, cool. Okay, how you work as a person, which of these feel most like you? You can answer it casually. So I would say I'm adaptable and actually not organized. I'm a bigger picture, a visionary or creative, not detail focused. I'm very calm under pressure. I am a very good communicator. I think I have a lot of patience with people. I'm definitely a proactive. I'll do my best shot at whatever I think necessary, and almost kind of like ask for forgiveness after versus asking for permission. I'm definitely creative, not analytical. I'm in between a people person and prefer behind the scenes. I like a bit of both. I'm a fast worker that works like under kind of tight deadlines. I am not good at routines. I am good at follow through, though, and I can work really well independently or in a collaboration. The type of work that drains me the most would be something that needs like micromanaging and direct communication with a client, like all day, every day. So you can see here, guys, like this is asking a lot of in-depth questions. This is also the free version of ChatGPT. So you can do this right after you watch this. Okay. Okay. Okay, so you sound strongest in support-based roles, creative assistance, communication-heavy work, reactive problem-solving environments, client care, helping overwhelmed people, flexible operational support. Honestly, this sounds exactly like the kind of things that I would love to do. And it also helps me avoid suggesting services that would drain you, like highly detailed bookkeeping. I could never. Advanced analytics, I also could never. Rigid system management or heavy technical operations. That's really good. It's really pulled out, even now, to this day, the things I am terrible at. One more question before I build your final services back. What types of clients, businesses, or industries would you actually enjoy working with? Okay. Okay. So honestly, when I was starting out, I didn't care who I worked with, to be honest. I had no preference, and I'm glad that way because I got to work with lots of different businesses, doing lots of different cool things. So I'm going to be honest, because I didn't have a preference there. I'm just going to say, I honestly have no preference. I would love to work with women who are really determined, or who are working on businesses that matter and that they're very passionate about, but no real specifics about the industry. Okay, great. Okay, so here are our services that we can offer. So here it goes, 4 beginner-friendly services that you can offer. My first service, it's saying I should offer, is inbox and admin support. So clients are paying for You manage day-to-day admin so the client stays organized, responsive, and on top of their workload without feeling overwhelmed. Tasks you can deliver: email inbox, sorting out basic replies, organizing and labeling emails, calendar scheduling and appointment booking, sending follow-ups and reminders, data entry into spreadsheets and documents, basic document formatting, organization. Absolutely all things that I had done and could do again. Creative brand and Canvas support. You help bring their ideas to life visually and make their brand look more polished, consistent, and appealing. So creating simple logos or brand visuals in Canva, designing social media posts and templates, choosing color palettes and fonts, editing and improving website visuals, creating trackers, PDFs, and brand documents, turning ideas into simple visual concepts. So yes, love this. This isn't something that I had like professionally done, but this is actually very close to what I actually ended up offering. And I think this is because it was a natural skill and it did pull things, like random things I'd done in my previous life. So I love this. Love that. It's really relevant. Social media support. You take the pressure off content management so they stay visible online without having to think about posting consistently. Tasks you can deliver: scheduling posts across platforms, writing basic captions, repurposing content into different formats, organizing content into a plan, engaging with comments, messages, basic community support, keeping content organized and consistent. Again, unbelievable, because these are all things that I excelled in when I started my business, and I had loads of clients that I offered these things for. Again, I think from natural strengths. Lifestyle and business support. You handle the life admin and operational support tasks that take up time and mental energy, researching travel, tools and services, booking and organizing trips or appointments, setting up apps, devices and accounts, simple spreadsheet tracking, customer client coordination support, general problem solving and troubleshooting support. Again, very good. All things that I did. Okay, and then it's giving me my basic packages that I can offer. This is basically in this prompt I have put in that our hourly rate is €30 an hour. You decide what your hourly rate is. It's generally around 30 to 35 euro an hour as a starting virtual assistant. You can translate this if you're using a different currency or you want to charge a different rate. So in the prompt, you would need to change that. Like for example, so obviously change this to 350 euro, for example. If your hourly rate is going to be 35 euro an hour, so it would be 10 by 35 euro, and then it would be 15 by 35 euro. You would change this to over here. So these are basically the kind of packages that I recommend selling, and these are the kind of packages that I recommend to our community to sell, because it is very hard to offer packages based on deliverables when you're starting out. So you basically just need to track your hours and offer services. So as for an example here, your smallest package, which can be just a low barrier to entry starting out for yourself and for a potential client, is 10 hours a month. So that would be 2.5 hours a week. So it's, for example, it says support can be used across the following areas: inbox and admin support, creative brand and Canvas support, social media support, and lifestyle and business support. This package gives clients flexibility, monthly assistance across all 4 services, used as needed. Time allocation, 2.5 hours per week in a 4-week cycle. So we basically recommend that you sell your packages 10 hours in every 28 days. So it works out as like 2.5 hours per week, just as an example there. So there is all of your different packages with our examples. So straight off the bat, you have those 4 packages ready to go. So what that basically would mean, that someone could purchase any of these packages from you, and they could use a combination of any of the services that you offer, inside of that, up to 10 hours a month, 15 hours a month, 20 hours a month, etc. So what you want to do, you want to copy and paste all of this information just onto like a Google Doc or any kind of a note section, whatever. Keep it safe, because these are the services and the packages that you're going to use in your future portfolio, in your future basic social media page. When you get future inquiries, this is what you're going to be sending over people, what you're capable of, or you're going to be making, you know, social media posts around these 4 main services you're going to be offering. Now, these are starting services. This will obviously adapt with time, and you will be adjusting it as life goes on. But this is an amazing starting point that you can literally create. What we did that in like less than 10 minutes, and we have this ready to go, which is just amazing. So now you have services to offer and packages to sell. Does it make you realize that you already have those high value services and skills like already in your back pocket, ready to use? Because I guarantee that made you realize how many things you can offer. Like when I look at that, versus what I actually offered as when I started my business, it is so close, which is actually crazy to think of, because obviously like I didn't have AI when I started my business, so I never got to do something like that. So what types of businesses actually hire virtual assistants? So when you're starting out, you don't want to target massive companies, because the easiest clients to land are the small to medium business. It's the 1 to 5 person businesses. It's the local businesses. It's solo business owners or small teams. People are already doing everything themselves, but also just not people who have like, you know, a full-time marketing person, a full-time social media person, a full-time, you know, admin person, a full-time, you know, project manager. You want to be a bit of a jack of all trades to them. And that's why the small business side of things works really, really well. So why these businesses are the easiest to land your first client? Because they're already overwhelmed. If they are a solo entrepreneur and they're already stretched thin and they're actively looking for relief, it makes your services be an easy yes. They don't have the big teams already. Like I mentioned, they don't have like a category for each independent team. They may not even have an office. They also might not have the budget for a full-time employee, and they may have no systems in place, and like things might just be a mess behind the scenes, and they also may not have enough time to do everything in their business themselves. I remember one of my early clients she was a lovely lady, a lovely Irish lady, who was a well-known fitness coach, and she was getting me to schedule her posts. I remember thinking, why on earth is she like? I worked for her for 20 hours a month, so it was €600. And I was thinking, why on earth is she paying me €600 a month to schedule her posts and a few other really simple things? And the reality is because she was making so much money that doing simple tasks like this didn't make financial sense for her, because she should have been selling more or serving her clients. So that's where sometimes you can get those kind of roles from people who are just really, really busy because they don't have enough time. So this is where you come in and you become super valuable, because the reality is small businesses are usually not looking for perfection. They're looking for someone who can take work off their plate and give them back more time. And they want support. They want someone who's a go-getter, who can figure things out, and isn't just another thing to manage. So here's an example, or lots of examples, of businesses that have actually hired hired our community as virtual assistants, just so you can get an example of the type of businesses, because there's so many. So the first up we have is coaches and online services. This can be things like business coaches, life coaches, mindset coaches, meditation coaches, fitness coaches, astrologers. I personally worked for a business coach. I worked for a mindset coach. My business coach I worked for as a VA, she was based in the UK. The mindset coach I worked for, she was based in Germany. I worked for many fitness coaches in America, and they're just some of the ones that I worked for. Then we have the health and wellness industry, the personal trainers, the gym, the yoga businesses, the Pilates studios. There's a million Pilates studios popping up everywhere. This is like one to watch. The nutritionist, the therapist, the doctors, the dentist, the vets, the acupuncturist. Again, think about those businesses. This could be the therapist session, a therapist where they're busy running therapy sessions all day. Maybe they don't have a full-time reception at the front door. Maybe they need someone to manage their email inbox so they can actually schedule or do reschedules. When you think about that, it makes complete sense. Even this is an example, I was looking for a physiotherapist recently for my partner. He hurt his neck, and we tried to get in touch with so many physios, and we ended up booking one. The location on their website was wrong, so the location was wrong, ended up being way too far away from us. Loads of them just had no way of booking online. Loads of them didn't answer their phones and had no voicemail set up. Loads of them were linked to a landline so you couldn't text. These are the exact businesses that need virtual assistants, because how are people booking their services? That's what we were wondering, after we couldn't get in touch with any of them. Then you have the creative and events, the photographers, the wedding planners, the designers, the cake makers, the fashion designers, the comedians, the singers. Again, this is such a random selection, but you would be surprised. If you think of anyone, this is just like at a wedding, all of those people are probably independent businesses. It can be the band. I went to a wedding recently, and they had 2 llamas dressed up as a bride and groom. So random. But these llama people were unbelievable at social media. They took a video with the llama, with the bride and groom. That next day, they put up their reel with the llamas in them with the bride and groom. They were the first people to share anything with the bride and groom. I presume they asked permission. And then you bet every single one of our friends has now followed that Llama page because they were fast action taking. They have a very clear inquiry form on their website, or in their link in bio. Someone is obviously helping them set it up, or else they're just really good at business building. But there's a lot of businesses who do cool stuff like that don't have all these systems set up. Then you have the hospitality and local businesses, the pubs, the cafes, the restaurants, the hotels, the clothes shops, the local boutiques. Think of all these in your area. I know one of the girls in our community, at the moment, she's working with a lot of different cafes and restaurants where she's doing like a product shoot for them, like going in and taking a photo of like how their ingredients are made and how all of their cakes and buns and bakery goods are made. And like, again, this is something that's so popular at the moment. Like, people want to see, the latte art, is it a freshly made croissant? If I'm paying €5, is it a fresh croissant that day? Like, you want to see these things on social media. So businesses need this support. If you're someone who's creative and likes taking photos, likes taking videos, you can make money from it. Then you have the creative and digital services like web designers, brand designers, graphic designers, dance studios. Then you have the travel and lifestyle, travel bloggers, co-working space, retreat organizers, things like Airbnb or, property management. Then we have the beauty and aesthetics like hair salons, nail salons, skincare brands, massage therapists, Botox clinics, makeup artists. This is very common that these people are extremely skilled at their trade, but are they good at the back end of a business or the social media side of things? Oftentimes not, because we see these come up a lot inside of our community. And the same goes for like the trades industry, like the plumbers, the engineers, the scaffolders, the roofers, the tilers. That industry, again, very skilled craftspeople, horrible with building websites, with maintaining their social media, with getting back to inquiries, or getting back to bookings. I was talking to a friend recently he had someone come over to build his fence, and they didn't show up at the right time. They rescheduled last minute. They sent him an invoice for the wrong amount. And he was just like, what is going on? Like, how does this person have a successful business? And because it's an industry that's in demand, that's like damaging your reputation. So these people like have the money to pay support. So they are also another great potential industry to kind of reach out to. These are also just some examples, again, from our community. So Molly from the Molly Method, this was one of our past students. So she was working with a music teacher, a dance school, an artist, and a pharmacy, and a personal trainer. So again, like very varying business models here. And actually, another girl in our community works for someone who tours the world with Irish dancing, and she's does like social media and like some kind of a scheduling support for her. So they're very, very random, but so cool. And then another example from one of our other past students is she's working with a business coach, an astrologer, a yoga teacher, a fashion designer, a nail salon, and a logo for an admin company. Again, very random, very vague, or very just varied. So I think this is just good to like get your perspective out about like there's so many different businesses who need virtual assistants, and how you don't need to decide on an industry before you start. That's where a lot of people get stuck, and I'm a big advocate of do not niche down, do not choose an industry before you start, because both of these girls are full-time in business, absolutely killing it, and they have a lot of different clients and they've got to learn a lot. So the simplest way for beginners to land their first clients. So any guesses what this is? The first thing is, you don't need a huge following, you don't need to have a fancy website, you don't even need a fancy portfolio. All of these things you don't need right away. And this is one of the simplest ways that the beginners in our community start getting their first inquiries, have their first conversations, and land their first clients. And this is via Facebook groups. So Facebook groups work really, really well because business owners are already in there. So people who are, you're already putting yourself in a room where your ideal clients already are. So if people are in Facebook groups, they're likely already networking, they're actively seeking connections and, open to building relationships inside of groups. They're also already asking for recommendations. They might be asking for trusted referrals and service providers. And they're already posting about what they need help with. So you might be able to kind of suss out what kind of people are looking for in those groups. And again, they can easily be looking for support in the groups that they're already in. So what type of Facebook groups should you join? Because not all Facebook groups are equal. So there's a lot of different kind of topics here. What I recommend is that for the next 5 nights, you choose one of these topics per night. So for example, local community groups. Join every local community group in your town, the next town, the next town, the next town, the town your mum lives in, the town your sister lives in, the town your best friend lives in. Join all of them. You're not going to be posting in them just yet. You need to be accepted into them first. So that's why you want to make this part of your routine from literally today. Start to join those groups. Then you have the women in business groups. These can be different, different networking groups. This, again, if you go and search women in business groups in your area, you'll find a ton. Then you have industry specific groups. So for example, if you are someone who's really into knitting or crafting or podcasting or traveling or expat life, it doesn't really matter what it is. If you have a specific interest, even if you don't have the interest, go and look up interest and industry specific groups, because these can be gold mines. One of the girls in our community just landed 2 really good clients from an expat group in Greece. So she landed 1 client in that group for £300 a month. And then that lady referred her to some WhatsApp group she was in. So then she landed her next client for £800 a month. And then she also got 2 more inquiries a couple of weeks later from that same chain of events. So sometimes you just hit the right group at the right time. So I would encourage you, like if you're interested in expat life or podcast or whatever it is, that there are other people in there who are business owners. I know, like when I was looking into traveling, I joined a ton of travel groups. I'm still part of them, and I always see interesting posts in there, and they would be like the perfect ideal client for me. Then you have like small business groups and entrepreneur groups and kind of like networking collaboration groups. And again, these can be anything from the local coffee mornings in your area. Look up those kind of things. It can be just like, maybe it's say I'm from Dublin, look up Dublin networking groups, look up Dublin entrepreneurs, things like that, and then go to the next town, the next county, the next area. And all these things don't have to be in the area that you live. When I started this business, I joined a ton of random Facebook groups, and they ended up being American Facebook groups. Again, I didn't actively target them. It was just a mistake. I was living in Thailand at the time. So I landed lots of clients long-term from these American Facebook groups. So it meant that I got to work with some American clients and learn a lot and get to practice a lot of different services and skills with that. And some of the random ones were for example, I always see things going on in a group. It's called like-minded bitches drinking wine. Very random name, but it's just kind of like a gals group. There's just all sorts in there. And I also think, say if you're a mum, or even if you're not a mum, the mums groups, if there's a load of mums, the likelihood is there's some mums in there who are also business owners. So just think of what you're personally interested in, and join a ton of these Facebook groups. So the beginners in our community are not waiting quietly in the background of these groups. They're joining the relevant groups consistently. Like I said, join a ton every single night. They're posting about their services daily. And I'm not talking about posting in 2 a day or 5 or 6 a week. We're talking about posting in 10 a day every single day. If you want to do this and land clients in the next couple of weeks, you need to go, all guns blazing, and it's really, really a numbers game. A lot of the women in our community are offering free or paid support inside of these groups, and I'll show you what that looks like next. And they're starting conversations daily that can lead to discovery calls. And I know all of this can feel a bit uncomfortable to start with, but this is how the momentum builds, and this is how you get closer to landing those clients, and obviously how the inquiries start. Also, this is some of our lovely community. We had a little meetup recently. So like I said, this is a numbers game. Success will come from volume consistently and relentless follow through. Relentlessness is definitely something I would like you to remember. This is the attitude you need to have. You want to put yourself in front of as many opportunities as possible every single day. And like I said, we're joining and posting in 50 plus Facebook groups per week. You're reaching out to new people daily. You're following up and starting conversations. You're reaching back out if someone's expressed an interest. The more people you reach, the more opportunities that you create. We're not sitting back and waiting for opportunities. That is not the business model that we are creating. Long term, yes, can this happen? People will come to you. Absolutely. That's where we're striving to get to. But this is not your immediate reality. So what are you actually posting in these Facebook groups? So this is the kind of style. Feel free to take a photo of this if you want to. This is what you want to be posting in the Facebook groups. This is what we kind of teach our community to do. So you want to have a photo of you, ideally. Just a normal photo of you looking normal and lovely and nice and a friendly face, because this is going to convert way more than a Canva graphic of your logo, because you're just going to be like, oh, she just looks like a nice, normal person, and that's what we're trying to achieve. So we're saying here, like, I'm currently offering, say, two small business owners 2 hours of completely free support with admin or social media with no strings attached, just a quick review in return. You can use this time for things like, and then you're going to pull out 3 or 4 of the services that you have created from your ChatGPT prompt that has told you what to offer. You're going to put those in there. Then you're going to say, and more, depending on what you need support with. I'm a Dublin-based virtual assistant supporting small businesses remotely, and I've got a few slots open for this. If there's something specific that you need, that I haven't mentioned, feel free to message me and I'll let you know if I can help. If you'd like to grab one, please pop me a message on here or on Instagram, and then have like at your Instagram handle if you have that set up. If not, just ignore this part and we'll book a quick call to chat through what support you need. Thanks, your name. So why we offer free work is, I think that's the next slide. It is unbelievable for building momentum. It is really, really great if you are nervous and unsure and you want to become confident. It gives you an opportunity to practice offering services, to practice having discovery calls, which is basically like a Zoom call with people who might want to work with you. It builds your confidence because you get to work with different businesses, you get to speak to different kind of business owners, you get to figure out what kind of different businesses are actually looking for help with, you get the experience, and what you're doing this free work for is in exchange for a testimonial or a review that you can then put on your basic social media page that you're going to build, so that you look reliable, legit, like an actual fully functioning business that people could work with. And you will then get practice and you'll get better at running discovery calls, which is essentially, like I said, the Zoom calls with people who want to work with you. All of this is about practice. And this is personally how I landed my first client. I did free work for a fitness coach. Then she hired me off the back of that. That was the client I said I landed as my first client for $200 a month. But then she referred me to a lot of people in her network. And in the space of like, I would say the 2 years of business, I landed multiple paying clients from that connection. So that 2 hours of free work was obviously so worthwhile. I also did free work for someone else who didn't need to hire me, but she referred me to her sister who had a beauty, they made like skincare products, and then that lady hired us for about a year as well. So obviously that free work was incredible. I was so much more confident, so much less scared by the end of it. And a lot of our community do this because it's just less scary and less daunting. So your work ethic in this industry matters so much more than the experience that you have, and I cannot stress this enough. You need to show up consistently. You need to follow up instead of waiting. You need to put yourself in the right rooms. You need to tell everyone about your business. You need to keep going when it feels uncomfortable. Another girl in our community, someone came over to fix her balcony. She was just chatting to him, telling him what she was doing, and he ended up hiring her for 10 hours a week, 40 hours a month, which is amazing, as his personal assistant. Again, he was great at what he did, whatever fixing balconies entails. Had no website, his emails were all a mess, everything was a mess behind the scenes. So put yourself in the right room means telling everyone and anyone about your business. And if you're willing to go hunting for opportunities and stay consistent and keep putting yourself out there, you will be miles and miles and miles ahead of most people already. So I'm always so transparent with the journey of being a business owner of any kind, and it absolutely will feel uncomfortable at the start. So if you are at the start, know that it is completely normal. You won't get replies straight away, but you will get to deal with rejection. And I cannot tell you how valuable rejection therapy is when you are building a business, because no matter what phase of business you're at, there is rejection, and you just have to get used to that. And it's something that just comes through repetition and comes through practice. And you might second guess yourself. Again, this is so normal. Like, who am I to offer this? Who am I to think I can do this? We are all guilty of, putting ourselves in worst case scenario and being like, oh my God, like everyone's going to think I'm, who's your one? That is not the reality at all. We have to think about like, what if this all goes right? I am more than capable of doing this. I do have the experience. I've worked in X, Y, and Z industries for this amount of years. Of course I can do it. So it's normal to have imposter syndrome and second guess yourself. But what matters is that you push past that, because don't think we all haven't been there. And this is why I'm a big advocate of the landing your first client through Facebook groups, because it works. I see it in our community all the time. So we have here, I think this is just like really good to kind of run through these to showcase that it isn't always just like super easy, but the consistency is what pays off. So had a really productive week, ended up putting a post into a Facebook group that got about 5 or 6 good inquiries. Obviously amazing. That's unbelievable. OMG, I posted my local Facebook group just saying I was a VA. And in the area, people wanted to connect, and a marketing agency left a comment saying they need help. Again, that's just because she put herself out there. Here, one of the girls, Hannah, got 4 inquiries from Facebook groups, which again, amazing. Someone else, remember how on the last group call, I was saying how Facebook hasn't given me much. I posted another local group today and got 2 messages asking about my services, just goes to show. And this is the message I want to get across. It's just, even if it feels like it's, it's a bit slow, like, I haven't got anything, like you need to post in a certain amount of groups before you can actually analyze the results. I've been posting in Facebook groups and I have, what do we have here? And have inquiries from 4 to 5 people. Again, amazing. And then here's an example of some more. So we have, same as Catherine, so that's another person. I had 3 inquiries from Facebook posts and have booked in discovery calls, definitely worth doing. So there's your motivation to go and post in the groups. I have my first client for 2 hours of free work confirmed. The lady replied to a post I had in a Facebook group. If anyone needs motivation to get posting, we have, thank you, I'm delighted, 3 from Facebook groups and 1 from Instagram. So she got 3 inquiries in Facebook groups. Hey Neve, had my first discovery call booked for Friday. Someone said they posted in a Northern Ireland business Facebook group and got loads of inquiries. Amazing. Posted in 10 Facebook groups today and just booked a discovery call with a guy that runs wedding events. How cool. And I have 2 discovery calls booked in for tomorrow morning and Friday afternoon, and that was also from Facebook groups. So this, putting yourself out there, posting in the groups, getting inquiries, getting discovery calls is then what leads to you landing paying clients, which is obviously the end goal. Everyone wants to jump here first, but we got to go through a few things first. So you can see here, contract signed, finally secured my first paying client. So exciting. Someone's biggest win was they landed their first client. Again, I think a really important one here. I posted in 6 Facebook groups and 3 of those were rejected by admin. So if that happens, it's okay. It doesn't matter. No hard feelings. But out of the other 3, I've gained a really nice client, 3 other potential clients, and a free facial from one of the ladies that did some free work for it. So I love that. Then we have first client contract got signed yesterday, finally, and kickoff call booked on Tuesday. $400 for her first client, amazing. Signed my very first client, a smaller package, but signed for a lovely Irish lady. And my first discovery call meeting went amazing. I've officially got my first client. So you can see that this is steps we got to go through to get to the end result of the paying clients, which is where we want to be. And so this is where most business owners go, or most beginners go wrong. So they start trying to get clients before they have the VA business client ready. And that means that the proper foundations aren't built properly, or there's holes in the basic setup, or sometimes you might not know how to go from inquiry to discovery call to landing the client, to onboarding the client properly and making that first impression. So it might feel a bit daunting when those opportunities come in, because obviously getting interest is one thing, but turning it into clients is another thing. This is the part that people don't talk about enough. So you want to make sure that, you might get a reply, you might get an inquiry, and you might even get someone ready to jump on a call. But if you're unclear or underprepared or second guessing yourself, the opportunity can slip through your fingers very quickly. So you want to make sure that you are obviously prepared as well. And here is what actually works. So like I said, you need to make sure your business is client ready. And this means knowing the services that you can offer, how to package it, which we've done, how to talk about it clearly, how to run a discovery call, which is the Zoom call, how to follow up, and how to deliver the services. And this is what turns interest and inquiries into those actual paying clients. So what is next, Neve? So now you know what is possible. The next part is knowing how to actually build the business, because clarity means nothing without a tried and tested method and consistency of what to do next. And that is where most people get stuck. At this point, a lot of people realize that I obviously can actually do this, but then they also start thinking, what's my next move to actually implement this? And what if I get stuck after the first few steps? What if I put myself out there and no one responds? How do I actually make this my real long-term income? And this is where the VA Academy comes in. And this is the path that I built for people who want support doing things from A to Z properly. Not just learning about it, but actually building a business the right way with a proven strategy to match. Because the reality is that you don't need all the confidence, experience in the world, or everything figured out first. Instead, what you actually need is direction. So you need to have a clear path forward, even when the destination still feels a little bit, uncertain. You need to have a strategy in place, so a plan that turns your goals into actionable and measurable steps. You need feedback. This is the big one. You need that honest, timely input that helps you course correct and grow faster. If anything is feeling unsure, or you're feeling a bit wobbly somewhere, you need to get feedback and, get back to being laser focused. And you need accountability. This is something that our community love the most, is having someone in their corner to make sure that they are moving when momentum fades. And they, again, you might be having a bit of a wobble, but just having someone to kind of pull you up on it and get you over the hump. And also the most important thing is you need personalized support. So not only inside our VA Academy will you get the in-depth coaching from myself and my team, but you'll also build a lifelong community of ambitious and very like-minded women who are all on a similar journey to you. So we attract such an incredible community of women who are, really motivated, really driven to get the results that they aspire to get. They are on the ball to make sure they land paying clients. So it's such a good community to be a part of. We can see here the group has helped me so much. And through having everyone doing this at the same time makes me feel so much better about going ahead and posting. So thank you, ladies, and Eve, of course. Everyone's smashing it. Lots of us out of our comfort zones here, but it is only by pushing our limits that we can see how far we go. Keep killing it. Love that. It's just, such a nice group of women. And this is for the people who want to be able to have control over their schedule and work hours and, build a life that's based on their needs. People who might want to travel the world and work remotely without having to ask anyone for approval. I know that was personally the reason that I started this whole business. I just wanted a full-time travel. I didn't care about anything else but being able to travel. My partner is from Australia and I am from Ireland, so we split our lives between the two, and that's a big reason for us. A lot of our community want to create work that fits around their life, not the other way around. I'm sure we can all resonate with that. And it's for women who want to build something of their own alongside their current job and move into replacing their current income. If you're in full-time employment right now and it doesn't feel feasible to go all in business, that is no problem at all. A lot of our community build their business alongside full-time employment. So if you are sitting there and wondering what is next, you can scan this QR code. If you're watching this on your laptop or on a desktop, you can scan this QR code right away to book in a free 30-minute connection call. I love these calls. It's a great chance to meet, to discuss the industry, to discuss your skills, and figure out if starting a virtual assistant business is your right next step, and also to figure out if mentorship support from us is a right fit. We will give you information on what that looks like on the call. We'll look at your background, we'll look at where you're at right now, we'll look at what make you want to change, and we'll give you, confidence to move forward into your next step. If you're watching this on mobile, you can also just look below. There's also a link to book in that 30-minute call below this video. So guys, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and your busy life to learn about the possibilities that, being a virtual assistant can give you. You've taken that first step towards exploring a different way of life and, to do things outside of societal norm. And you should be proud of yourself for that. Thank you. Thank you for coming. And I would love if you come and say hello. Instagram is the best place to get me, at Niamh Team Virtual here. You can also email me if you have any questions, info@teamvirtual.co. And you can also follow me on TikTok. TikTok's not very good for messaging. So message me on Instagram if you want to say hello. I would love to hear your takeaways. I would love to see, if you created your services pack with our ChatGPT prompt. And remember, the ChatGPT prompt is also linked under this video, so you can go and grab that and get going with that right away. And I will see you guys over on Instagram.